In Cassandra 5.0, there is a new exciting feature being introduced called dynamic data masking. Dynamic data masking came out of Cassandra Enhancement Proposals number 20, also known as CEP 20. This is the Jira ticket for CEP 20 where dynamic data masking was initially implemented. As you can see here, I have a 3-node Cassandra cluster and I'm running open source version of Apache Cassandra 5.0 Alpha 1 version. In Cassandra 5, in Cassandra YAML file, by default, dynamic data masking feature is disabled. To use dynamic data masking feature, first we have to enable it by setting this parameter dynamic data masking enabled equal to true. We have to make this change on all the nodes in the Cassandra cluster. Also remember to restart all Cassandra nodes after any changes done to Cassandra YAML file. As you can see here, I have logged into my Cassandra cluster using CQLSH as Thor user. Thor user on this cluster is a super user. Notice that we got a warning message for typing the password on command line, and that is an insecure method. Also, we got a recommendation to use credentials file to securely provide the password. Also notice that we got a warning message which is explaining that we are using Cassandra 5.0 Alpha 1 version and all features may not work as expected. On this cluster, I have an empty key space called My Collection, and I have not yet created any tables in this My Collection key space. Let us now create a new table called My Cars in the My Collection key space. As you can see here, we will store car ID, a simple integer, as a primary key, or car ID is the partition key for this table. We will also store the car name and car cost. We will also store car VIN, a simple text. VIN is vehicle identification number. Since vehicle identification number is a secure information, I would like to mask it so that it is not visible to people who doesn't have special privileges to see the data. This is the new syntax introduced in Cassandra 5.0 to specify a column as a masked column during the creation of table. Users will require a special permission or a privilege to see the data stored in a masked column. Now that we have created a new table with one column masked, let's just describe the table structure and review it quickly. As you can see here, in my cars table, car win is a text column which is by default masked. Let us now insert some sample data into my cars table. I have inserted 3 rows into my cars table. Notice that car win column is showing the data in plain text. This is because we logged in as a super user Thor on this cluster. So remember that all super users in Cassandra will have a special permission called UNMASK to see all the masked data. Earlier, I have created two Cassandra users called Aloy and Celine. They did not have any permissions before. I just granted them the select privilege on our My Cars table to both Aloy and Celine users. As you can see here, I have started a new SSH connection to one of my server nodes. Using CQLSH, I have logged in as Alloy user to my Cassandra cluster. In another SSH connection, I have started a CQLSH connection and logged into my Cassandra cluster as Celine user. Notice that when I'm selecting data from my cars table using Alloy user, I cannot see the car win information. This column is masked. As you can see here, when I run a select statement on my cars table as Celine user, I cannot see the car win data because this column is masked. Notice that now I'm running commands as Thor user. Right now, Celine just has select privilege on my cars table. Let us grant a new permission called unmask to Celine on my cars table. As you can see here, I have granted unmask privilege to Celine user on my collection.mycars table. So now onwards, when Celine user is querying the mycars table, Celine will be able to see data stored in mycars table without any masking. Let us now select data from mycars table as Celine user. Now that Celine user was granted a special permission called unmask, we are able to see the data in the car vehicle identification number column in plain text. We can grant unmask privilege on a specific table to a user or a role. We can also grant unmask privilege on a key space to a user or a role. Similarly, we can grant unmask privilege on all available key spaces in a cluster to a user or a role. Similarly, we can revoke unmask privilege on a specific table from a user or a role, or from a full key space from a user or a role, or we can revoke unmask privilege from all key spaces from a user or a role. Notice that now I'm running commands as Thor superuser. Notice that we are masking only one column right now in myCars table. Let us now modify this table structure and mask a column which is not already masked. We will mask the car cost column. Notice that now we have applied masking for two different columns, car cost and car vehicle identification number. Car cost column is a decimal data type and car vehicle identification number column is a text data type. Let us now select the data from myCars table as ALAW user. Note that ALAW user does not have unmask privilege. As you can see here, now ALAW user cannot see data in both of these masked columns. Both car vehicle identification number and car cost are not displaying the original information. Also remember that because it's a dynamic data masking, the data is masked during the select statement, during retrieval of data. So user does not have to re-log in to have the data unmasked or masked based on their privileges. In other words, data itself is stored in an unmasked fashion in the disk. Only when we retrieve the data, it gets masked or unmasked based on the privileges. Let us now remove the masking on the car cost column using this alter table command. Now that we have removed the masking on the car cost column, we are able to see the data in car cost column as ALAW user. So far with the text data type columns, we have been using the default masking. Let us now use this mask inner function for a more advanced masking on the text data type. As you can see here, when we use mask inner function on a text data type column to mask the data, we can partially mask the column data. If you remember, Celine user already has the unmask privilege. so Celine can see all the data in plain text. Using dynamic data masking, it is also possible to select data and mask it during the selection using custom data masking functions. As you can see here, using the functions mask inner and mask default, I am able to mask the data during the select command. Remember that Alloy was never granted an unmask privilege. So Alloy cannot see unmasked data. Imagine there is a special use case where Alloy user knows a specific car vehicle identification number, and Alloy wants to select the data based on that specific car vehicle identification number. Currently, Alloy user cannot run this select statement because Alloy user does not have unmask privilege. Let's now talk about this special privilege called select masked privilege. Notice that I am now running commands as Thor superuser. As you can see here, Alloy user was granted only select privilege on the my cars table. As you can see here, I have now granted this special privilege called select masked to Alloy user on my cars table. As you can see here, now Alloy user can run this specific query where Alloy user knows the vehicle identification number for a specific car. Remember that select masked privilege does not allow user to unmask but only allows to query using a unmasked value. With Cassandra 5.0, there is a new table being introduced in system schema. The table name is called column underscore masks. We can query this table to see which columns in which tables are masked. Hope you enjoyed this session and also you are excited as much as I am about the dynamic data masking feature in Cassandra 5.0. Thank you very much for watching.